afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Open Our Eyes, a show which focuses on the inclusion of persons with disabilities within our society. I am your host, Shawn Calloway, and I am joined today by Mr. Gerald Barnes. Gerald, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great today.
Good.
Great.
Before we begin, Gerald, do you have any announcements for our public today?
Yes, all roads lead to the prayer breakfast for the NFB, April 23rd, 10 o'clock a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. We're going to bring the Lord in and let him do his work, and we're going to take him out with us. That's April 23rd at 712 Randolph Street, Northwest, in beautiful Washington, D.C. We're looking for you to come down the road with us.
Wonderful. Now, this is the first time I've been on the show with the intro, which features the group that named themselves after the three elements of the universe, which is earth, wind, and fire. And the intro, of course, had the lead vocals of the late, great Maurice White. So perfect intro, I think.
Yes, indeed, Sean. Yes, indeed.
Today, we're going to kind of deviate from Disability Talk today, and we have a guest who has written an outstanding book which really embodies the characteristics of those who are disabled, which is faith, perseverance, and determination. Our guest is a graduate of C.H. Flowers High School in Prince George's County, Maryland, and is a graduate of Johnson C. Smith University. Well, we keep getting these outstanding HBCUs coming on our show. By the way, for those who don't know, Smith is in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Mr. Jeevan Brown. Jeevan, how you doing, sir?
Welcome.
I'm doing good. How y'all doing?
Good. Jeevan, you wrote a book entitled A Lesson Learned. Can you tell us more about the book and what inspired you to write this book?
The book, A Lesson Learned, is I interviewed 16 of my friends and associates and some of my family, and all of them had a trial or tribulation during their college years. And at the end of each story, it's a lesson learned, and they're saying how they got through it and what advice they would give to somebody else going through the same thing. So some of the stories detail, I had a friend who got raped. I lost my best friend during my college years, my 12th grade, my senior year. I got STD stories. My cousin got drafted to the NBA, went to Josh Howard, went to Dallas Mavericks. Dealing with violence, racism, drugs, sorority, basically every aspect you can think of that can happen to you, and not just in college, but in life, period. And also at the end of each story, I did research stating that it's not just happening at this school, but it's happening at schools all over. So at the end of the book, it's a bibliography and notes to know that this is not just something I made up, but it's true and it's happening all around, America. Mm-hmm. And what inspired it is I was going to write. I had a pretty fun college life, and what I was going to do is just write about all my crazy college experiences. But as I grew older and matured and got more into church and the God, I said, why not try to give back and do something meaningful? So not just tell my crazy stories, but tell my friend's story. And then at the end of each story, try to inspire people to know that you may go through something, but you still can get through it. So it's kind of geared towards high school and college students to know that they may go through these circumstances when they get older or right now. Mm-hmm. And, you don't have to give up. You can still go through it and not give up.
Okay, go figure. The man said he had a good, fun college life at a HBCU. Did you see School Days, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. But anyway, I digress. Jeevan, how long did it take you to write this book, by the way? Because it seems like
it took me 2 years to write the book. Mm-hmm. I thought I was done after the first year, but I went back and I read some other books, and then I read my book, and I was like, this ain't popping enough. It ain't really grabbing me how these other books I was reading were grabbing me. And I actually went to school for communications and journalism, and I know how to write, but as far as writing the book, it's a totally different experience. So I did my job as far as interviewing them, but being descriptive and bringing the words to life and making sure they're able to feel what's going on in the book and to actually see also what's going on in the book. So I went back and I kind of rewrote everything. So I still had the interviews, but I just rewrote everything, and I made sure that I put, I wanted to grab the readers as soon as they open the book so it can be a page turner. So, whatever happened to that character in that story, I kind of put that first so they know that this, is starting off crazy already, and they'll grab their attention because, nowadays we live in the world of social media, where everything is 15 seconds long, 10 seconds long, and you can't really keep people's attention. But I realize you got to grab them right in the beginning, especially now, and especially if it's geared towards high school students and the younger generation, because their attention is really short. So I was trying to make sure I grabbed them as soon as you start reading.
Now, self-disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I'm actually in this man's book, chapter 1, actually. And,
yes.
For those who don't know, I'm visually impaired. I lost my sight while I was in school due to a shooting accident. So Jeevan asked me about my experiences about the book, and of course that brought back some memories of the incident and how my life has gone on since then. Jeevan, when you interviewed other people, was there a point within the interviews where you had to take a step back for yourself and kind of take a breath and say, whoa, this is heavy? Or were there individuals you interviewed who told you, Jeevan, I got to take a step back because I'm having some memories, some flashbacks, some certain things that's just bringing back, the incident that was traumatic to them?
Definitely. Interviewing you, I was nervous because I know what happened to you was pretty intense, and I can imagine, going through something like you went through. And so I was nervous about interviewing you. I know you for a long time, but it's just, I know bringing back something that deep in your life, I know could maybe bring those old feelings back. And I didn't want to try to hurt anybody or try to, make them feel sad or anything like that. So definitely, in some of the other stories, one of the girls I know, she got raped, and I was kind of nervous about interviewing her because I've dealt with females who've been raped before. I know how emotional that can be, taking them back to that place. So I was kind of nervous and kind of standoffish about that, but I still interviewed them and got through it. And one story, I interviewed a girl who got an abortion, and she did have to kind of step back a little bit and take a deep breath and finish telling her story because that was kind of traumatic to her. So yeah, that did happen a few times. And I had to step back a few on another story. This one girl I know, she got shot when she was in high school and in college, actually, her freshman year. And she's the last person you would think that would get shot. So when I was interviewing her, I was actually there. I wasn't there when it happened, but I was at the same place. And I came back and I seen everything that was going on. And I didn't know all the details which had happened to her. Like, she couldn't walk for a long time. She was in the hospital all summer, and it broke the bullet had broke 3 of her ribs. So I didn't know all those details. So I had to step back and wow. And I was putting writing this book, I was putting myself in their shoes and trying to become them and imagine how they will feel and try to put the most empathetic words. So I did have to step back a few times because some of the stuff is deep. And now that I see that the book is out and people saying they've been crying reading some of the stories, I know that it has had that kind of impact, and you can feel those feelings.
And Jeevan, some of the individuals in the book did not disclose their real names. Is that true? Or
yes. So it's 16 chapters, and 3 of the chapters have the real names and the real places, but the other ones don't. So chapter 1, which is your story, has the real names and the real places. Chapter 3, which is the story about myself and me dealing with the loss of my best friend during my senior year. I had 4 internships, a job in Circuit City, taking 19 credits, and my best friend passed, and my granddad was sick with cancer, and my grandma had diabetes and was dealing with complications also. So I was dealing with all that during my senior year. So that I put my real name in place during that time. And also Joshua Howard, who went to Wake Forest and then got drafted to the NBA Dallas Mavericks. Those all have the real names, but the other ones don't, because some of it is kind of intense, and you want to protect the innocence, and they don't want their names out there like that. So I changed the name.
Right. Let me ask you this: a few weeks ago, we had Dr. Frederica Brooks Davis on, who is the psychologist at the Reed Temple Restoration Center, and we were having discussions about African Americans and seeking counseling. Now, these are some traumatic stories that you mentioned. You're talking about rape, you're talking about myself with acquiring disabilities and other forms of traumatic incidents. Did anyone talk about, in dealing with these situations, did anyone talk about obtaining counseling or any type of services?
Yes, you did, because you had when you went to therapy, you went through your services where you had to learn how to basically learn everything over again. And, talking to you, I became so, you reading that story, you become so grateful for the things you take for granted, because I know you had to learn how to fold your money certain ways and how to know what's in your closet, and you can't really you can't drive anymore. So your therapy, but also the girl that got raped, she told me that therapy really helped her a lot, and she actually just got finished with therapy. That happened to her in her college year. I believe, I want to say it happened to her freshman year, and she just got finished with her therapy last year with going through all that, and she's 28 now, and that happened when she was 19. So she just got finished with her whole therapy sessions, and this really helped her. And in the Black community, I realized we kind of don't like going to therapy or like getting counseling, but people I know that's gotten therapy, especially females I know who've been raped, I know a few of them, and a lot of them have gone to counseling, and it has worked, and it's helping them get through those traumatic phases in their life. So if anybody goes to anything, I would recommend counseling, because I've seen it myself help with so many people, that I've seen them come from not wanting to talk about anything to opening up, and because I believe you're put on this earth to serve and to give back. So anything you go through is going to help the next person. It may be hard to talk about it, but I believe counseling helps open up that emotional wound and how to deal with it and how to properly heal from that. Because especially the girl who got raped, because after that, it's like, how can you go on and deal with a man after that, or deal with relationships, because you've got a whole different view from it, and you don't end up not trusting men anymore. And how do you, a lot of women goals are, they want to be successful and get married and have a family, but have something traumatic like that happen to you. How do you even go forth and open up your heart to trust again? And I know counseling really helps with that,
What was some of the things you actually, when you researched and you did your interviews for this book, what were some of the things you learned that you did not know before writing this book?
Something I didn't know before.
For example, you were explaining, when I talked with you about blindness, there were certain things you didn't know in regards to blindness and
well, the famous one with that is, everybody thinks, and I thought too, that when you're blind, all your other senses are heightened, and you told me that the senses are not heightened. That's one thing I learned for sure. With the girl that got abortion, I didn't know it was that dumb. They went into, like, I researched, and they said that the suction they use for abortion that can suck air out of a can, I didn't know it was that strong. I didn't know that sometimes the body parts can be left over inside, and they had to go out and scrape them out. It's a lot of things I didn't know. Dealing with rape, I didn't know that it can have so much trauma on a female like that. So that was pretty deep, doing research for all those stories.
And ladies and gentlemen, by the way, people assume because you're blind that you can hear from here to the moon. And that is not the case. Your hearing does not heighten. Your sense of smell, you cannot smell like 3 blocks away. That's just one of the biggest misconceptions. But anyway, Jeevan, how has you mentioned it earlier, how has your response been to this book?
It's been great. It's been surreal and shocking to me. I mean, I let all my friends, people I interview, I let them read their stories, because I didn't want to be like the best man kind of thing and be hanging over a cliff, and I got everybody's approval, So I let them read their stories, and when a lot of them read their stories, a few of them, they said they cried or they laughed, they feel all these kind of emotions. But I was thinking, it's their story, so of course they're going to feel that way. But then I let my mom and my aunts and a few of them read the stories too, just to go over it and kind of edit it and look at it, and they had the same response. And then I had 2 editors, one guy named Maurice Garland, who's wrote for a few different magazines like Vibe and a few hip-hop websites, and he said that he laughed and he could relate so much. Then I had another lady who was an editor, and she said she cried reading a few of the stories, and that she could relate so much to the story about the young girl who got raped, because she went through the same thing, and she said that she feels so many emotions reading the book. And I took that. I was like, wow. I was still shocked. I was like, okay, But then I released the book, and within a week, people started emailing me and telling me that, wow, I've cried reading your book. I laughed so much. And one thing that really struck me, and it's really so gratifying, it makes me feel so good and just joy. I know it's nothing but God, is the story about my best friend passing, that was a hard story to write because we've been friends since elementary school, and he died from meningitis at his school. And I got a Facebook message from my friend named Ashley, and her mother had died recently, and she said that story is really helping her with her mother passing because she didn't know how to deal with it. It made her look at death in not a negative way, but kind of, positive and encouraging. And, death doesn't have to devastate you, but it can motivate you. And so that kind of helped her with that a lot. So seeing those kind of messages and that it's helping people, because that's kind of what I did. I wanted to, because I know people love the entertaining and crazy books, but I know people love the self-help books too. So I was thinking, why not put the two together? So that's why I tell the story, and then at the end, it's like 2 or 3 paragraphs saying the lesson learned, but it's kind of like a self-help. That you may go through this. Here's another way to get through it and not be sad about it, and not dwell on it, and try to move on and try to inspire somebody else with your story. So that's the good part about it. That's when I feel that feeling that somebody tell me that they're gaining much from it, or that they're highlighting parts of it to take on with their life. Because I know when I read self-help books, I highlight parts and I put it in my phone to keep reading and reading over and over until it sticks with me. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. So I try to read encouraging words or stuff that I've taken down every day before I go out the house, so I can have those in my thoughts. Or when I get in the car, I'll play The Secret, or listen to a sermon from Pastor Jenkins Glenard, or the pastor from Mount Zion, Keith Battle. I'll listen to a service so I can have those positive words in my mind before I go into the building and go to work, so I can keep that positive faith throughout the day.
Jeevan, in your trailer for your book, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I have been on this earth 43 years, and I have never seen someone have a trailer for a book. I've seen it for movies, but never a book
outside the box.
Yeah, but your book, I mean, your trailer at the end of it mentions that all the stories have something in common, which is success. Can you tell me some of, and I don't want you to give away, the book per se, but some of the success stories that occurred within your book and with some of the people you interviewed? Well,
the guy Josh Howard, he went on to be in the NBA, and he kind of went through a lot when he was in school. He actually got drafted the same draft that LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwayne Wade got drafted. He was the last pick of the first-round pick. So he was, he didn't know he was going to get picked. He was nervous, and he was so much in college. He didn't know what he was going to do after college if he didn't really get picked. Writing his story, I learned that a lot of college players, if they don't make it or they get injured during college, they go through, depressed. They get really depressed. I know a few people who told me they've got suicidal because they didn't know, football or basketball or sports was their life. So he made it. And then the girl who got shot, she actually just finished law school, and she's trying to be a judge to help under at-risk teens. So it's kind of like it came full circle. So now she's trying to help the same kind of teens that shot at her. But they didn't mean to shoot at her, just to let everybody know. But she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's kind of she's helping now in the same kind of teens that were that shot at her. So it kind of came full circle. So he just finished law school. So that was some of the stories. And had success with it. Most of them, all of them still got through it. And the guy in the book, he played football. He got caught stealing books. He actually went on to play for arena football. So, they still made it through. They still got it. And everyone learned a lesson definitely from their story.
When it comes to a book like this, Jeevan, I can only imagine there's something next. What's next for you? Because I can't see you just stopping, not only with this project, but doing something else new. What do you see for yourself in the future?
Well, I want to go on the college tour, so I'm actually going to go ahead and put it out in the air. I want to go on the college tour. I actually kind of want to get it in high schools and colleges for their curriculum, or like for high schools for their 12th graders in their college readiness programs if they have one, or in colleges for the freshman seminar class. Because a lot of these stories, they will go through it. They will know somebody that goes through it. Like, each story is so relatable. So I think it'll be really good for them to read that and to have that in the back of their minds when they're about to go do something that may affect them for the rest of their life. And they'll remember that story, and they'll help them get through that. So I do, and I've kind of been working with it. I've been traveling up and down the highway, just walking on campus and going to school, then talk to my old school and been to A&T and talk to a few professors and counselors, and I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I actually talked at Coolidge High School this past Friday, and I talked to a group of kids for 2 hours, and they loved the book, and, they were sitting there. The teacher told me they were sitting there, the two students were sitting there for 80 minutes reading the book, and they hadn't put it down, and she hadn't seen that in such a long time. So,
wow, that's great. Well, before we go, Jeevan, where can people purchase the book and go to your website? Give us some information.
You can get it at JeevanBrown.com. My name is spelled J-E-E, that's 2 E's, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, Brown.com. And you can also get it on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Wonderful. Well, I want to say to Mr. Gus Brown and to business caller Renee Thomas, outstanding job. You raised this young man very well. Oh, I got to give a shout out to your sister too, by the way. So thank you, Shonda. So Jeevan, thank you so much, and I hope you come back soon, man. You take care of yourself.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Jeevan, and I hope you go out and purchase the book, A Lesson Learned. Also, want to let you know, if you would like to know anyone who's who has a disability, a woman who has a disability, and they want to get into a support group, you can contact the DC Center for Independent Living at 202-388-0033. Gerald, you have any more announcements?
Just to go back a little bit with the prayer breakfast, we pushing it because it's really going to put some good things out there for everybody as far as praising the Lord, and that is at the First Baptist Church, 712 Randolph Street, Northwest, and it's 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and we're looking for a good word from Reverend Madison, and she would really put a word out there for us. So we look forward to seeing you guys there, and for any information, go to our Facebook page, and great show, Shawn.
And by the way, the Facebook page is Open Our Eyes, and also you can hit us up by email for any suggestions at info.openhoureyes@mail.com. So once again, Gerald, wonderful show. Thank you all for joining us, and have a productive and blessed week. Take care.
Lord, open our eyes.